Hello and welcome to Glendale Today. I'm Councilmember Manny Martinez and I represent the residents living in the northernmost area of Glendale in the Cholla District. Today we will be taking a look back at Glendale over the years and talking about my memories of Glendale during the time I grew up here. There has been a lot of change since I was here growing up. Julie Waters, our communications director, is here with me today. The format for today's show will be a little different. I'm going to hand it over to Julie, and she's going to be asking the questions. Welcome, Julie, and thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I'm honored to be your last guest on your last show, and I'm really excited to turn the tables on you and that I get to ask the questions instead of you asking the questions. So as you said, you grew up here in Glendale. Let's go all the way back. Tell us about what was life like in Glendale, Arizona when you were a young boy.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that my grandparents moved here from El Paso, Texas in the very early 1900s. And they settled there on Ocotillo, and it is now 55th Avenue, the second lot north of Ocotillo. Grandparents had a daughter and two sons, the daughters of my mother.
Okay.
And I remember that the three siblings, they built three homes on two lots, and ours was at the back of one of the lots. And I remember that the streets were dirt with a little gravel. We didn't have any indoor plumbing.
Right.
There was nothing. There was a faucet outside for the water, a privy, there's a facility. And so that was what I remember about the early time.
Right. Now, 55th and Ocotillo, in that area of Glendale, that's near the beet sugar factory.
Well, the beet sugar factory is about half a mile from there or so.
Okay.
It really hasn't changed much since the time I was growing up. Now, we have the railroad tracks that are existing. Yes. They've been there forever. Well, from the beet sugar factory, first of all, it was, back then when growing up, it was vacant, as it is now, but we used it as a playground. We weren't supposed to be there, but we went there anyway. But from there, from the beet sugar factory through downtown Glendale, there was a railroad spur that went all the way down past Grand Avenue and over to where there used to be met with the tracks, existing tracks, and there used to be an ice plant there on what would be that's now the northeast corner. There was a big ice plant there. And so Glendale was really an agricultural community. Yeah. There were a lot of crops that were raised and vegetables grown. And so the farmers would bring their products to the ice house, and they would be iced down in the boxcars and shipped all over the country, I guess, to California, and I don't know where else they would go. But one of the things I also remember also that some of the ice that was used, some of it would fall. And one of my jobs as a kid growing up was to take my wagon and get some of that ice, and that was what we wash it down, and we would use it in our refrigerators at that time. And we didn't have to pay for it from the deliverer.
Life was so different.
Very different.
People we sometimes take all that for granted. Ice plants were a really big deal, probably throughout different regions of the country. Tell me about the Rock Church.
Well, the Rock Church, there's a church right now. There's on just south of Lamar on 55th Avenue. And it's the Rock Church because it's built out of rock. But when I was about maybe 10 or 11, there was a frame structure, a church, a Catholic church. I don't think I have the knots still from, I got my cookies if I didn't get my catechism correct. But the structure burned down. I mean, completely. It was demolished, and the only thing that was saved was some of the statues.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's impactful. You remember that after all these years.
Oh yeah. That's ingrained in my memory because it was a disastrous fire.
Sure.
And then our church.
Heartbreaking for the community, I'm sure. So, Councilmember Martinez, you were growing up in Glendale during the Depression era, and that is such an impact on our world and our country back then. What was Glendale like during that time, especially if we were known for agriculture?
As I recall, everybody was poor, at least in our neighborhood. But I think we actually had it we were not as bad as in some other areas
Okay.
that depended mostly on commerce or industry because of the agriculture, because it seemed like there was always some labor that was, jobs that were open, menial labor, either weeding vegetables or bundling or and tying vegetables, harvesting, whatever. It was always, if you wanted to pick cotton, there was a big crop. In fact, I remember the first money I ever earned was 60 cents. It took me about half a day. I went with my uncle, and they gave me a sack, and I earned 60 cents, which I very proudly took to my mother. It was my first earnings.
Wow, and it was from picking cotton.
From picking cotton.
Do you remember where? Which part of town?
It was somewhere on the west side.
Right.
It was somewhere on the west side. In fact, probably in this area.
Right, where we are right now at the
We are.
Glendale Media Center. We're out here, at about 95th Avenue in Maryland, right across from the stadium.
I harvested potatoes about where the stadium is.
Really?
I harvested potatoes there. I mean, but the whole, Glendale was all agriculture.
It was just,
we had
farming,
citrus,
yeah.
melons, cantaloupes, just about anything you can think of. Really, we had it.
So a little bit about your family. How many siblings? How many total kids were there in your family?
In my family? Well, in my family, we have two sons, 2 daughters.
Okay. And then you had brothers, sisters?
I have, we had 3, there was 4 of us.
Okay.
And there's 2 of us left, and 2 have passed on.
Was it all boys?
All boys. And in fact, one of them retired, has passed on, was Eddie Martinez, and he retired from the city of Glendale.
Oh, how about that?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys lived and worked here and stayed here. So Mom and Dad were raising 4 Martinez boys here in Glendale.
Well, just my mom, really.
Just your mom?
Yes, my mom.
Okay.
Yeah, she raised 4 boys by herself.
Wow, how about that?
Pretty much, and she was a breadwinner.
Okay, what did she do?
She worked in the fields.
In the fields.
Picking cotton. She did some. Most of it was in the vegetable, doing work in vegetable harvesting, because there were a lot of small farms, mostly that were run by Americans of Japanese descent.
Okay.
They lived right on the area.
Okay.
And so just about all the time she had some work that she could do.
Yeah, she always had something to do.
Mm-hmm.
But she sent you boys to school.
Yes.
Where'd you go to school here in Glendale?
Well, first I went to Unit 1,
Okay.
which it was the only school in town, elementary school. It's now known as Landmark Elementary.
Yes.
And that's some fun memories of there, because I remember that my mother dropped me off in first grade. I was about 5. And I'll never forget my first grade teacher was Miss Bowling, tall, slender lady. And in fact, I cannot remember my second grade teacher, but my third grade teacher was Miss Carmen. Miss Roach was my 4th grade. Mr. George Smith was my 5th.
These teachers made an impact.
Melvin signed the biggest impact.
Yes.
He was my all-time favorite. There's a school named after him.
Yes, after him, yeah.
And Melvin signed the 6th grade. 7th grade was Mr. Henry Schry, he was my history teacher, who also was a council member and later became mayor.
Oh, how about that?
His picture's up on the wall there at City Hall.
Right.
And my 8th grade teacher was Anthony Maloki, and my shop instructor was Isaac Ives. In the school.
Another one.
Another one. And my first project that I had there was building a magazine rack, which I have to this day with magazines.
Do you really?
That thing is 70-some years old now.
Wow.
And it still
works.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great that you remember all the names of your teachers. They obviously were very special.
I tried to think my second grade, but I just couldn't come up with it.
It'll come back to you. It'll come back to you, probably when we're in the commercial break or something like that. So what was school like back then? And you probably went to school with a variety, I'm sure, very diverse community we had, and probably a variety of people. And did you stay at Landmark the whole time?
Yes. In fact, and when I went to school, I didn't speak a word of English. I didn't speak a word of English, and either though my mother started speaking to us in English, trying to prepare us,
right.
because she spoke fluent English.
Okay.
And but I didn't, 5, I didn't speak it, and so, but sign language is great. Like when you need to go to the bathroom,
right.
And so, but I picked it up. It's amazing what kids, they pick up things quickly.
Right, right.
And so it was an interesting time, and real good teachers. I remember all of them.
Yeah.
Real good teachers.
And the main part of that building is still there.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
I mean, they've added on over the years, but you can certainly go back and walk the halls, literally.
Oh yes, yes. And I'd like to get back to Mr. Sign for just a moment.
Yes.
Because he was a disciplinarian.
Okay.
And he had a paddle.
Really?
And
yes, that was kind of part of the times.
If you misbehaved, you got the paddle.
Did you?
I got the sting of it one time.
What happened?
Well, I forget what I did, but
you remember getting the paddle.
But the thing of it is, he was a great teacher. He also had an incentive that if he had a ping pong table outside under a big tree,
Yeah.
and if you get 100 on your spelling test,
Yeah.
he would give you 15 minutes just playing ping
to
pong
go
with
play
him.
Ping pong.
Well, the others were still in class.
Okay. Did you ever
And
get
so-
to play ping pong?
I became a very good speller.
Oh.
Really, it became one of my best subjects.